in the standards framework, the standards are characterized, comprised of 10 chapters, and the 10 chapters are actually further, what you call bifurcated into objective elements, which are measurable elements, and they are 44 in number. So this is the framework having 10 different chapters, having, if you look at this 1 to 10 different chapters, having different component inbuilt in there, and each one of them has a different number of criteria. So in all, there are 44 criteria. So let's have a little more elaboration. So first chapter is about vision, mission, and objectives, which actually provides direction to any training program, and it's very clearly laid out as the training program which are not covered under regulatory requirement like CCIM. They are actually targeted under this scheme. So the first criteria is that institution. That means wherever the word institution comes, it means the training provider for the specific training course. Institution shall have a clearly defined and documented vision and mission. So there is a clear vision that what they are trying to achieve over a period of time, and then how they would like to attempt that vision through its mission document. And then institutions shall have defined objectives and measure them periodically. So what are the objectives set? And basically objectives are derived from the vision and mission statements, that how you would like to achieve those mission and mission statements. And you define certain objectives which are measurable, which you can measure them. And that's why it says you define them and measure them periodically so that you know where you are going. The institution shall have mentioned activities that are taken to achieve these objectives. So in line with objectives that are set by the institute for itself, they need to have the activities to perform. The institution shall define its quality policy, and the quality policy is in a high level of a statement from the management, which provides a direction to the institution in terms of its quality-driven process for providing training courses. The institution shall have a policy for evaluation human resources engaged in training. So as this is a training program, so there are a good component of the technical skills required and competency required for the trainer, the faculty, as well as the evaluation mechanism for the students. So the people who are involved in providing training, they need to be evaluated, and there should be a policy for that. The institution shall have policy for evaluation of the students. Now, whosoever comes and join a training program, they need to be evaluated, and this is left to the organization to define what type of evaluation they want to do. They want to do a viva, they want to do a written test, how they want to evaluate. This is left to the organization, but they need to define their policy on that. The institution may decide not to have evaluation and provide only a participation certificate. So it's based on, again, in consonance with VMO 6, where you define a policy. If in that policy define you don't have any formal test or examination to evaluate, then in that case they can do so, and thus just provide a certificate of participation, not like a certificate of successful completion or something like that, which has a different meaning. So to make a clear distinction in just participation or participation plus formal evaluations to state that they have really qualified or they have completed successfully after an evaluation. The second chapter is towards organization, governance, and administration. So how the organization is structured, how the organization is governed for its functioning. Institution shall declare its ownership and legal status and details of ownership. So who are the owner? What status they have? They are whether registered company, a trust, society, government. What is their legal status, and details of the owners of that institution. Institution shall define its organization structure or organogram. So the organogram is basically an important tool to give an idea to anyone who is looking at it, that who reports to who is accountable to who is responsible for what, and what is the entire structure of the organization in terms of human resources and its related activities. The institution shall define the roles and responsibilities of our person. So anybody who's working in the organization, they call personnel. Each one of them has their own roles and responsibility. Specifically, you can have it in the job description. The institution shall define rules applicable to all personnel. So any rule which is applicable to anyone there is need to be defined. And rules are basically maybe human resource rules, means the terms condition for employment, service, training as a faculty includes every type of, whether it's a regular or a part-time or a contractual, any type you define, and you define rules for them. Institutions shall have a policy and procedure for outsourcing, if any. So in case something you are outsourcing to someone else, then you define the policy for that. The policy shall ensure that the outsourced entity complies with applicable parts of the standards and part of the assessment. So even in case you are subcontracting or outsourcing a thing to some other organization, then you need to define what is that, and then ensure that that entity or even maybe the individual in terms of the faculty as a contractor meets the requirement of this standard which we are talking about. The accredited training providers must witness the delivery of the outsourced entity at least once annually. So it's the responsibility of the institution who is outsourcing, or a specific task or an activity to someone else to at least go and see how they are doing and whether they are complying to your specified requirement at least once in a year. The institution shall identify regulations applicable to its activities and shall have a system to meet the regulations. So this is basically to do the activity as lawful activities. So in case there are any legal or statutory requirements applicable to the activities or to the institution providing training course, they need to be identified, and once identified, they need to be complied with. So compliance comes only when you know what are applicable to you. So that's why it's important that you list them out. If there are any regulatory requirements that are applicable, list them out and then comply with them. Another chapter, third, is about the financial resources, and it's important that the institution should be financially viable to provide the services it is intended to provide, and therefore it says you should have a suitable mechanism to monitor its financial resources. The monitoring actually covers what are your sources, or how much you are earning, how much you are spending, so that you have a control over those financial transactions, and you know the status of your institution in terms of financial resources available to you and what you need to do in terms of if they are not sufficient or viable to provide options to your institution. Chapter 4 is about human resources, the personnel, the people working in the organization or working for the organization. The institution shall have sufficient resources to operate the training courses. So you really need all those resources which are required to provide specific training program which you are offering. The institution shall have a procedure for engaging personnel. So how you engage people to work in your organization. So they may be regular, as I mentioned earlier, maybe part-time, maybe contractual, or maybe regular. Any type of arrangements, it's up to you how you engage with them, but you should have a procedure for that to engage. The institution shall have a mechanism to identify training needs of its personnel. So if people are working with you, then they would definitely need to complete, to meet certain requirements in terms of competence, skills, whatever. And according to that, is there any training there? So it's about training need assessment, training need identification of people working in your organization. And once you identified, provide those training, make arrangements to get them trained on that. The feedback of the training is to be collected, analyzed, and used for improvement. So any feedback you get from those training, you should collect those feedback and then use that analysis for the improvement. Organization shall have appraisal system for its personnel. So it's about the evaluation of the performance of individual, the people working in your organization. So you define how you are going to do that, what will be your performance appraisal system or a criteria for that, predefined criteria basically, and then everybody knows about it so that they really work toward that to meet. And then at the end, you define how frequently you are going. Usually it's done once in a year, but it's entirely your choice to define what system you are going to use. Organization shall follow a grievance handling mechanism in case anyone working there is having any grievance against anyone there, then what system is to be used. So it should be available to the users. The institution shall have adopt measures to prevent the spread of infectious diseases if applicable. So this is important, particularly in view of the current pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, that people working together are coming into contact. So you should adopt the best practices, best measures prescribed by the law of the land at the minimum in that specific country to prevent the spread of any infectious disease, not only COVID, but there are a couple of other infectious diseases. The institution shall have a record of the personal details like name, age, sex, qualification, designation, experience, training, etc. So this is about personal file, personal record of all people. So there should be a personal file of everyone who is working there, and which at a minimum shall have these components which are just mentioned. Now you can have over and above, but these are the minimum thing we should keep and maintain at all times. Chapter 5, infrastructure resources requirement is institution shall determine and provide infrastructure needed to operate training courses. So what training you are offering, what infrastructure you need. So you determine what is required, right? In terms of man-machine environment. So it includes, usually the people you need, and then the physical infrastructure. It may be building space, maybe any equipment, any specific environmental condition you need. So this is about you determine based on the course you are offering, and then accordingly make sure that they are provided. The institution shall organize for periodic maintenance of infrastructure. So you won't maintain anything that they may not last for long. So you should have a proper mechanism for maintenance. Usually they may be under annual maintenance contract by someone who is able to do that. So you should have your system for periodic maintenance in order to keep all infrastructure appropriate at all times. The institution shall ensure for periodic calibration of equipment if required. So in case there is an equipment which needs calibration, calibration means to ensure that equipment is fit for purpose. It is meant for an intended purpose, and it is providing and giving that intended purpose or fulfilling its intended purpose. So that is the purpose of calibration. So in case it is such type of equipment, depending on the course you are offering to demonstrate something, then you should get that done. The chapter 6 is about student services, what you are offering to students who are coming to get your training attended. The institution shall define the eligibility requirements for each training course. So what are the eligibility conditions? You define whatever you feel appropriate for that, including if any prior knowledge is required for a specific training course, and also make it available to public on without request. It means it should be available, and I think most appropriate ways of making it accessible and available to public is put on the website, because that is anyone can go and see. So you provide all those things that this is the course and these are the eligibility requirements to come and enroll for that. The institution shall have the code of conduct for trainees and shall have a system for addressing any breach of code of conduct. So you define a code of conduct for the trainees, the students who come to join your training program, and code of conduct may be a wide range of requirement, which you said it may be including participation, regular training, attendance, the regular minimum attendance to come and attend, and behavior, personal behavior with colleagues, the other students and trainees. So anything which you feel that this should be there as a code of conduct, which must be adhered by all trainees to create an appropriate environment of that specific class or training that you define, and then it should be known to all the trainees so that they abide by it. And then you should also have a system for addressing if there are any breach of any code of conduct, in case any trainee or any student is not abiding by the code of conduct for any, so that you should have that, yes, it get attended properly and addressed. The institution shall have a system to address any issues related to the trainees. So if anything is related to the trainees, any issues, anything which come out related to the students, it may be related to any individual students, related to financial, in their health, their family, or personal issues and concern, which you may attend on a case-to-case basis. For example, someone is fell sick and not able to attend, and then what mechanism you offer so that the student can make up to that time which has been lost, or any financial obligations on the student fees or something which you can. So you should have any issues related to that come to address. Chapter 7 is course curriculum, and this is what is basically technical thing that gives rise the credibility of specific training courses and what they are going to cover in that. So institution identify the courses it wishes to operate, including courses developed by others. So this is also related to the previous thing, that the courses identified and the requirements for that. It's also related to that what are the courses you're offering, right? What to provide, and it may having both type of courses, the courses developed by you as an institution, as well as you can take any course which is developed by somebody else. So you can get into an MOU, an agreement with some other institutions who have developed a specific course to get the permission to use that course and provide to students. So you identify those things. The institution shall have procedures to decide on course content, duration, eligibility, etc. for each course that it operates, unless these are decided by an external course provider. So if you have developed, then you decide that you should have a procedure for that to decide on what course content should be, what is going to be the time length, duration, what should be the eligibility conditions to come and attend and enroll for it, for all courses which you are providing, until as it is done by somebody else, the course which you have taken from outsider, and they have already defined all these things in their course. So in case courses are designed by the external course provider, training institution shall ensure that the course meet all the applicable requirements of this. So irrespective of who has developed the course, whether you yourself or anybody else, in all cases, you have to ensure that the course meets the requirement of this standard for accreditation, which we are talking about in all aspects. The institution shall define the competence of those who develop the courses, and if needed, take external help to develop courses. So this is again very important for the credibility of any training course, that the people who are involved in developing these, they are competent. And how? So you define the competency for the courses which you are developing. This is the course. This is the competency needed in the expert who comes and develop. So you may have in-house expertise, or you may have you may get that expertise from outside. So it's entirely up to you, get internal or external support to develop, but you define the requirement for anybody who comes and meet that specific competency requirement. The institution shall define its mode of delivery of training, whether you're going to do physically or in-person training, or a distance or online, or any other mode of, or a combination of any mode, like nowadays are all going virtual, right? So you may define you're going to have completely virtual, or you're going to have completely on site where everyone physically present. It may be hybrid, some part maybe some practical demonstration maybe on site, and some maybe off site, the remote. So you may be a hybrid. It may be an online recorded mechanism as well, which any student at his own convenience can attempt and walk through. So it's anything which depends on you entirely, but you must define that what going to be the delivery model. The institution shall define the learning outcome of its training courses. So for each course, you define what are the learning outcome. If I attend as a student, what I'm going to learn. So you define, and that actually is very important for anyone to come and get attracted toward the course, that these are the learning outcomes. I'm going to gain this much out of this course. So I think this is a win-win situation for everyone, both for you as a provider to get more students, and also for the students to come and attend those, finding the benefits. The institution shall ensure that the courses are delivered as designed. So you design course, so you follow how it is to be delivered. It should not be any deviation. So whatever documented thing you have done, for the delivery, you do it. The chapter 8 is evaluation and assessment at the end of during the delivery and after the delivery, how you evaluate. So institutions shall have evaluation at the end of training, a year for each course. So after the course is done, complete its own training, and means the duration, then you should have an evaluation that how you're going to evaluate. The institution shall define the criteria of evaluation for each training course. So it's for all, it's not for one or not, but you define for each one of them. The institution shall define the process of evaluation for each. So what process you are going to use for evaluation, you define as well. The institution shall define if the student is not successful in evaluation, and if a student can appear again without training. If yes, how many times? So if anyone comes and attend and then is not successful, and if you have a criteria that successful and not successful, if it is just participation, it's okay. But if there is a criteria that you declare someone is successful or not successful, so what is the process you have in place if some case is not successful? So can a student come back and attend a specific type of that training? If that, how many times you provide that opportunity, or if it's not successful, then the student has come and attend the entire course. So you define whatever you are going to do. The institution defines conditions under which students may require to repeat. Yeah, same thing which I covered in E4, that you define whether the student can just come and attend or walk through the test and see the results, whether it's not or not, or they have to come again. It means reappearing all the modules and the trainings and then undergo evaluation. The institution shall have an independent process for appeal against the decision on evaluation. So there should be a process for appeal. And appeal means appeal can be made against the decision made by the training provider, the training institute. So if they have made a decision, say for example, you are not qualified, then there should be an opportunity. There should be a mechanism called appeal for the students to appeal that, yes, no, I'm not satisfied and I would like to get this review. So you should have that system in place. Chapter 9, learning resources. This is to facilitate and help students to get more and more knowledge. The institution shall provide information on learning resources, both physical and virtual, for self-learning. So you may prescribe some books, maybe e-books or physical books, or maybe some any mode is acceptable. So it actually to facilitate and provide them as a part of your curriculum or course. So it may be some resources may be upon your website, which you provide to all students. Maybe some may be in public domain, anybody can access. Some may be only specific to specific student who enroll it. So you have access control to only the. So it's entirely your mechanism, but you should provide so that it helps in better understanding before they take up or even during they take up. The institution shall encourage research, publication, article writing, or design. This is about the improvement, how you improve your own courses. So you support, you encourage the research so that there may be developmental aspects of the specific training course over a period of time. You learn from them after analysis of several parameters, and then you can evolve and make improvement in your training, even content, the delivery, or whatever way you like. And better you publish in the journal so that it is disseminated. Other people also get benefit out of it. The chapter 10, which is the last one, quality improvement. As we talk about accreditation, so there is a component of improvement, and quality is not something which you can do one time and then you relax. No, it's an ever evolving process. It has to go from here to there over a period of time on a continuous basis. So institutions shall establish a monitoring system for quality improvement. So you shall establish a system, and how you going to monitor your quality improvement processes and how you will demonstrate that there is improvement. The institution shall define its quality indicators, learning outcome indicators to promote quality in training. So you define your performance indicators, right? That these are the indicators which we will measure, and based on which we will say we are going up or down or we are standstill. So that will give you a measure to identify opportunities for improvement. The institution shall collect feedback from students and other stakeholders and analyze it for improvement. So one of the best way of getting feedback is in conducting surveys, passing on the questionnaire, predefined questionnaire, and get the feedback from stakeholders, from the student, the first thing, and the stakeholders. So students are not the only one of the stakeholders, but there may be wider range of stakeholders. You should identify your stakeholder. Maybe the institutions, other institutions who are accepting this training program you are offering, stakeholder, the people you are offering, the organization offering jobs, the work opportunities to students after completing, they are your stakeholders. So you take feedback from all of those so that you can come to know what's going on, what need to be improved, what need to be modified, so that you can really measure those objectives. The institution shall have a system of internal audit annually and address the findings for improvement. So the internal audit is one of the best management tool to identify anything, any deficiency occurring and existing in your own system. So before somebody from outside comes and indicate, it's better you identify your own deficiencies based on your own criteria. So you carry out internal audit for entire system from all chapter 1 to chapter this, everything you cover into your internal audit at least once in a year. You can have more. So it is good that if you are starting a new system, then you should have more frequent audit, maybe once in 3 months, once in 6 months, and then as you progress, you learn, you get experience, then you can have at least once in a year. So I think that's the standard, and Anupam has already covered assessment process, so I won't go into these details. So I just end my presentation with this. Thank you very much. Back to you, Dr. Sharma. Thank you so much.